Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Just blown away by Natasha's presentation. It's really wonderful. I learned a lot in such a compact space of time. Truly an honor to be here with so many leaders, trailblazers, systems changers, and to really exchange views on a range of issues that are very current and very pressing right now. It was just a few months ago that I was here in this auditorium in a different capacity as a member of the advisory board of the Center for Governance and Sustainability here in Singapore. They helped create the Singapore Governance and Transparency Index, and we were here for the launch of that, and I see some familiar faces from that time around. Today, I serve in an honorary capacity as Special Envoy of the head of the interim government of Bangladesh, Nobel Peace Laureate Professor Muhammad Yunus. I got here on Saturday and attended a wonderful talk by Dr. Jane Goodall and was pleasantly surprised. I was sitting in the back of the room listening to her, and in the middle of her talk, she mentioned Professor Yunus and his influence on the work of her foundation in Africa. Not very many people perhaps know that Bangladesh is, by population, larger than Russia and Malaysia combined. It's the 8th largest country by population in the world, 6th largest in Asia. The average Bangladeshi is some 22 years younger than the average Japanese or German, 12 years younger than the average Singaporean or Thai or Chinese, double the fertility rate of Vietnam, and more than double the density of virtually any country in the world apart from city-states. The uprising led by young people and students in July that led to the fall of the previous government was literally titled the Movement Against Discrimination. It was a movement for inclusion, a movement for jobs, and a movement for economic opportunities. It was a movement against both the symptoms and the systems of exclusion, of discrimination, and repression that have left a litany of failed promises and false dawns over the decades. So the job of the interim government now is to help design and enact structural reforms so as to ensure an element of fair play and due process in governance. We have stood up multiple reform commissions, each looking at a specific area. There's a commission for electoral reforms, one for parliament, one for civil service, judicial reform. There's also a Women's Affairs Reform Commission. I'm now thinking we should call it the Orange Commission, which will take a gender lens through everything else. And these commissions have a time-bound brief. They will report back within the next month or two, and then we will have a very clear body of work, book of work after that. On the economic front, perhaps defying expectations, foreign exchange reserves have stabilized over the past 3 months. Remittances and exports are both up considerably, double-digit percentages, compared to the same period last year. Internationally, we're grateful for the support of all kinds received from right around the world, as I personally witnessed when I was at the World Bank IMF annual meetings, at COP29, where I had the opportunity to champion more adaptation finance, or the ILO governing body meeting in Geneva, where we reiterated our commitment to better labor and sustainability standards. In fact, on the sidelines in Geneva, I also got to meet Darren Tang, a distinguished Singaporean who's the Secretary General of WIPO, the International Property Rights Organization, and he and his organization are also helping us at this moment with international property standards. I'm especially grateful to Singapore for its continued support. Singapore is, as you know, perhaps the patron saint of free trade agreements. And I'm very pleased to have officially started FTA negotiations with Singapore exactly 1 month ago. In fact, I just had a bilateral meeting this morning with Minister Grace Fu at her offices, and I remain grateful for the continued assistance that we're receiving from Singapore. Bangladesh is open for business, and we're certainly open for foreign investment in a serious way. One of my first tasks was to help hire the head of our Board of Investment, or our equivalent of EDB, if you want to think of it that way, who just happens to be an investment banker from HSBC Singapore. We have other brilliant people in key posts, whether it's the chairman of the National Board of Revenue, so they're in charge of taxes, customs, or the governor of the central bank, or the head of the Chittagong port. And together we've already helped remove several barriers that were in the way of pipeline investment and trade opportunities. When it comes to investments, we need to widen both the sources of funds and the range of recipients of those funds. The role of foreign private investment in our development journey is crucial. At a national level, we need a rich capital structure. We need all of equity, bonds, loans, concession loans, grants, all of them, each crowding in the other, not crowding out the other. We need discipline, disclosures, transparency in decision-making to ensure that deserving projects receive funding, and then projects that have received funding are actually generating the intended impact. And as we know, when it comes to investing for impact, there can be market failure on both the demand and supply sides of the equation. So we also need to make sure that we have the regulatory capacity and that our regulators are up to speed. So in that context, I'm very excited to learn about orange bonds, and I'm very grateful for the invitation to this Orange Forum. SDG 5, or the Orange SDG for gender parity, is really of the 17 goals, it's really a super goal. It's a meta goal that permeates virtually all of the other SDGs. So to create a conduit that forensically targets micro SMEs in that space, it's an intriguing concept, and it's certainly one that deserves to expand its reach. Global goals are by definition global challenges that transcend borders. Inclusion and fair play are global values, values that we must promote and empower together. I look forward to engaging with all of you and gaining from your diverse perspectives later today, and I thank you once again for your time.